A warm welcome to the first small session of this day, to this setting the standards for the single market and the question how to include SMEs. Honestly, when we were preparing this session, there were some voices, behind the scenes saying standards, it's a tough subject, are people interested in it at all? How many chairs do we add? Maybe just 20 chairs, let's see. Well, you prove us wrong, and what we have discussed is maybe this is the first session on standards, and next year we need to advance that. So today's session is a session with wonderful experts and practitioners of setting standards and applying standards in their businesses. So if you have any questions and curiosities around this, how are standards created in the European Union? How are standards supporting the single market? And how can SMEs have a seat at the table? And what is the work of applying standards in their enterprise? These are the perfect people to have this conversation with, but also the perfect people are all of you in the audience. And the same goes to our online audience. So today's session is composed of two elements. So first, we're going to focus more on the stage part, and then we're going to turn to you and give you an opportunity to digest what you have heard and also contribute questions for us all to tackle them together. I have a wonderful colleague of mine over there. You can see her, Mariam Artola. She's doing graphic recording for us. We're going to look at her graphic recording by the end of the session, and you're also going to be able to see it in the Ideas Lounge, there where the coffee break is and the lunch is. Before I introduce our guests here in person, I would actually like to pass the word to a person who will open our panel today and is with us via Zoom, because it is a hybrid conference, so we're trying to, live into that. How do you hold these events like that? So Mai Verute is the Deputy Director General and Chief Standardization Officer with DG GROW. Welcome and good morning to you.
Good morning, dear Chair, dear delegates. Good morning from Brussels, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for organizing the event and giving me the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you. The timing of the event today is excellent, not only because you are in a beautiful place in Spain, but also because this is a year when we are getting ready to celebrate 30 years of our single market. And during these 30 years, the European harmonized standards have made the single market work. By now, we have about 3,600 harmonized European standards taking care of safety, quality, performance of products and services. And building on this strong foundation, we are now advancing in implementing our new European standardization strategy, and many member states have also put programs in place to support our new standardization strategy. Importantly, we have now elevated standards to the boardroom level and policy level, with the high-level forum on European standardization and similar settings also in the member states where strategic orientations are discussed and common efforts are focused on our key priorities. Standards are recognized as key tools to boost the EU economy in the green and digital transition, as well as building our resilience. Key initiatives for the future of the single market, like Net Zero Industry Act, AI Act, Cyber Resilience Act, will define the direction of travel, but we will then need agreed standards for actual implementation of these important new policies. If we look at clean tech, data, critical raw materials, space, all of these new initiatives need up-to-date standards. And this is, of course, essential that the standards are developed in a way that the SMEs also have the opportunity to make your voices heard and to benefit from these new standards. We really value highly the input our SME representatives give to the standardization process. And on the other hand, I want to also stress that standards can make SMEs' life easier. by providing the assumption of conformity with EU laws, and one doesn't need to reinvent the wheel each time, but can rather apply the relevant standard. Looking at our single market over the last 30 years, we can see two success factors. Well, the first one is, of course, a close alignment between EU laws and then the standards and policies, and then the public-private partnership the model we have used, which brings industry, SMEs, society, academia, and the national standardization bodies to really work in partnerships together. And let me say, it's also important that the various parties whom we involve in public-private partnership, they come in equal footing, and it's not like only the bigger ones can make things happen. And on the model itself, I sometimes hear that our system is too burdensome and we should follow, for example, the American model. Well, we have now an evaluation coming up for our standardization regulation, and of course we are happy to look at all options. But for now, and looking also at what our public-private partnership has delivered, we are quite satisfied with the model, and we see it as something that has delivered building a single market. And let us also keep in mind that the global competition is getting ever more fierce. And we see that standardization is also, unfortunately, becoming one of these fields of geopolitical competition. In light of the geopolitical changes in the last years, we have now worked on modernization of the governance of our standardization organizations. And we are now focusing on a few of the elements that should make us deliver even better. So first, on prioritization. And this, of course, is key to focus our resources where they are really needed. On the resources themselves, we are working with different Commission portfolios aiming at mobilizing more support, more funds, and ensuring really seamless and strong alignment between standardization, research, development, and innovation portfolios. A more strategic approach to international standardization is something that we also now have among our priorities, and including, of course, more strategic, closer collaboration with our like-minded partners. And final element in this new agenda are skills. We really need the best and brightest technical experts to come and help design the standards, and many of them are also in our startups and in our smaller businesses. So I hope that with these few elements, I give you insights into the discussions, and I hope that the panel is going to be illuminating to all of us. All the best and good success.
Thank you so much, Maeva. Thank you so much for opening the panel. It was wonderful to have you with us here in the room. I would like to introduce our wonderful guests today. Javier Garcia is the Managing Director with the Spanish Association for Standards. We also have with us Isaac Navarro, the CEO of Contasera. And we have with us Maitane, who has been my partner in preparation of this session, Maitane Olavaria, who is the Secretary General with Small Business Standards. Javier, I would like to maybe open our conversation with your contributions. You know almost everything, probably, one can know about the Spanish market and how SMEs can participate in setting standards in Spain. Yeah. What is your story?
Thank you very much, and good morning everybody. It's so nice to be in my hometown. Bilbao is my hometown. I live in Madrid for over 30 years, but I don't have so many opportunities to come here, and I tell you, we don't have beautiful days like this one every day, so enjoy the session, but enjoy the view as well. And I'm really happy and certain that we are in the standards session, because all these people is really smart people. Just to make it up to this room, it shows that you are the right people to be in the standards session. It was not so easy to get here. So anyhow, jokes apart, let me share with you a little bit of what is the role of the organization I have the privilege to lead. which is the Spanish Association for Standardization, which is, as I like to say, the house of standards in Spain. I have prepared some few slides that maybe if the colleagues in the table can launch them, I will share with you and use them to support my presentation. I was starting with a slide that I will share with you now. There we are. Thank you very much. With a slide that, in fact, I always put in these similar presentations, but today this is for Isaac to say. This is why should SMEs participate in standardization? It's not me to say today. Yes. Yeah. So there are many, many elements. Of course, not all of them apply to every single case, but you see there are elements that have to deal with productivity, with market intelligence, what's coming, what's going to be the standard that will apply to my product in the coming years, in 2-3 years time from now, so that if I have to adjust my production or whatever, if I have to influence and I can access more markets, promote our capacity to innovate. The standards are not restrictive, they should not be prescriptive, they are to be performance oriented. So how can I innovate in order to keep on complying with the standard and evolve the standard according to the evolution of my products? A lot of benefits, but when I have these similar conversations with colleagues in Spain, at the end of the day, they come to Javier, yes, this is very nice, but what we want is to sell more and better. Okay, so does this help me for that? I leave Isaac to answer that question afterwards. What are we as the House of Standards in Spain? We are the Spanish, the link to the European and to the international standardization. Those organizations, those companies, those technological centers, those universities, those authorities that want to participate in the development of standards and want to participate in nowadays, 90% of what we do is European or international. So if they want to be at those tables, we are that bridge. We facilitate their participation there and the networking in a national table with their neighbors, with their colleagues, with their competitors, with their partners in their local language. Okay, so very important, and we are designated there by the government as that Spanish member of those different standards organizations that I hope at least some of them are familiar to you. SENS, CENELEC, and ETSI as the 3 European standards organizations recognized by the European Commission to support the deployment of European Commission policies. Excuse me, because this one is in Spanish, I didn't translate. What kind of organization we are as this Spanish member of SENS, CENELEC? We are an association. I like to say we are an association of associations because we have around, as you can see there, over 180 associations, because in the last line where it says others, there are again regional or sector-specific associations, so around over 200 sector national associations. Those are our main members, our main stakeholders, but we also have state agencies, universities, individual companies that become our members, professional, I don't know, colleges, I don't know this figure in English, how you call it in other countries. So a big variety of membership. Going a little bit into the content of what is intended today. So how can SMEs participate? I mentioned before, in these tables of national experts, national companies, laboratories, universities, authorities, so all the interested parties sitting at the table, respecting some key principles that make the difference between what we call standards and what other documents are in the marketplace that can do or can seem similar. Principles like transparency, openness, consensus, diversity. So these are key elements for ensuring that the output of this process, which is the standardization process, is really providing the maximum guarantees to the marketplace and generating trust and a level playing field for all the actors in the market. So one of the big elements that I wanted to share with you today is how they can participate. SMEs, like any company, can participate directly, just asking to sit at the table and they have a chair, or they can do it indirectly through the corresponding sector associations. Okay, and this is, in our model, in the Spanish model, this is a very strong channel and mechanism of representation and participation through the national sector associations, where companies come together, identify priorities for their sector, and for those for which they have a common understanding and common needs, they come together with 1-2 representatives to our table to ensure that their view is taken into consideration. Some figures to give an idea of what we're talking about. We have as members, as of those that I shared before, 532, 52 are SMEs. I'm not going to enter, is this a lot, is this not, is this... Always trying to improve, always trying to do things better. These are facts, these are figures. 214, as I told you before, are sector associations. We have, like the tables you have here today where you're sitting, we have in our organization almost 1,000 of these tables dealing with different topics in which standards are being developed. Lighting, windows, construction products, electric vehicles, you name it, 1,000. And with over 11,000 individuals participating in those tables. Out of those 11,000, 1,651 are SMEs. Again, is a lot, it's not, I don't know, this is the figures, what we have, and always trying to improve. 25 of those SMEs lead, are the conveners, are the managers, are the leaders of those standardization groups. And of all of those, 51 are our own members. It's not necessary to be a member of the organization to sit at the table. That's very important. And as you can see there, of those 900 standardization groups, over 300 are led by sector associations, which is also, again, another, it's our main channel for ensuring that the views of SMEs are represented. So, and with this I am finalizing my introduction. How do we promote the participation in the development of standards? First, and very important, dissemination of information, because the first thing is to know whether there is a standard that applies to my business or whether there is a group of people participating in the development of a standard that applies to my business. And how can I know about that? Well, you can know about that in our website, of course, but you can also have that information through the websites or through the departments of the sector associations. We have online commenting tools for the public inquiry of the draft standards, so that anybody, any organization can send their comments, and those comments must be dealt with. As I said, you can participate actively in the technical committees, from the national one to the European and international ones. In those where there are financial regimes that apply for participation, there is always a consideration of special rates for SMEs to take participation. And then there are more and more, like you said at the beginning, Carolina, hybrid mechanisms to facilitate online participation. And that would be what I wanted to share to launch the discussion now at the beginning. Conclusions, we know it's never enough, we're trying to improve participation through all those different mechanisms, because we are certain that SMEs get a benefit out of standardization in terms of knowledge, anticipating market trends, influencing the content, etc., etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Javier. I hope that those in the audience who are from Spain will, like instantly after our panel, reach out to you and ask how they can get involved. And those of you who are not from Spain are looking up, all right, what's the House of Standards in my country, and how can I get in a conversation with them, either in person or maybe, just starting slowly and sending them a comment and seeing what will happen then. Isaac, you have a unique perspective you're contributing here to our conversation that is really important. You, not only as a CEO, you have supported your organization in maneuvering in a really changing environment in your industry, but also you are one of the ones who are taking the seat at the table and co-writing, co-developing the standards and applying them then in your organization. It would be really wonderful to hear from you, both what were the benefits of that, but also maybe what you were up against when you were beginning to engage in that process, because this is something that many of our SMEs here in the room, but also in online audience, will be asking themselves, okay, so how do I begin and who do I need to get on board in my organization to actually be able to engage in that process?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to introduce my company. I'm the CEO of a company of Contasara. It's a small and medium enterprise dedicated to the design, development, and manufacturing and testing smart water meters and other technologies related for remote reading. So 35 years ago, almost 40 years ago, we were established. So it was very innovative company, because if you know, everybody in your house, you have a typical mechanical water meter. That's it. It's only for billing, nothing more, not information related for management of the data of the information of the water consumption. So at the beginning, Contasara didn't have any kind of a standard related. We were to be fulfilling mechanical water meters standards. So we decided strategically, we decided to participate like a strategy to be the leader. My first recommendation is, do you want to be a leader or a follower? If you want to be a leader, you must participate in the standardization process, irrespective you are a small and medium enterprise. Because if not, finally you will have only to fulfill the approval standards, the approved standards. So I started like a technical and quality manager in my company before to become the CEO. And I was participating from the beginning in the standardization processes of two different standards. First, the standards related to the product itself, the water meters. And we wanted to be as well an excellent company. So we decided to participate as well in the standardization process of the quality management system, excellence models, in order to be a leader like a company and a leader in our product technology. So at the beginning, of course, we were small, but we learned a lot. This is another benefit. When you are participating in a standardization process, like an SME, you learn because you are in a committee with experts. The majority are coming from big enterprises. So they are experts in big enterprises, multinational, big groups. So you are learning. But on the contrary, you are providing your expertise like a small company and your expertise like an innovative company. Mm-hmm. So you are providing also the future requirements for the companies like you are going to fulfill these standards. So I think it's very important not to be a quota rate of the small and medium enterprise. I think the small and medium enterprises are 99% in Europe. So we should participate as much as possible because we are representing the common and regular companies in Europe. So we need to provide our vision. It's another benefit because we provide the vision of the smallest medium enterprises. Our vision is the agility. The big enterprises are like big elephants. They are very, very slow in movement. Mm-hmm. The startups, the small companies, we need to be agile. And this is why we have to provide the context of the standards must be very simple and to fulfill, not very complex. We have to provide these inputs for the design of the standard. The simplicity, the agility, the competitiveness, this kind of inputs must be, of course, the efficiency. The small and medium enterprises must be efficient. We don't have big resources to invest. So we have to try to convince the committees that the standard must be, of course, easy to fulfill, but of course, not so expensive to fulfill. Sometimes in the committees, they are very good experts, but they design the standard very complex and very difficult to fulfill. Because when you have to design a product fulfilling a standard, after you have to test. You have to test in a laboratory, and sometimes even the accredited laboratory are not prepared for testing these specific requirements that have been designed by the committees. So we have to manage this kind of complexity, and this is good for these companies. As well, another benefit is to be competitive in Europe, because if you fulfill a European standard, if you are only producing, for instance, in Spain, if you are fulfilling the European standard, it's easier to open another markets in another countries in Europe. So it's very good for us because in order to grow, in order to have more revenues, more profits, we have to grow and we have to go, let's say, crossing the borders of Spain, of another countries. And this is a good opportunity and a good benefit as well. In fact, there are also national standards that in some occasions are not very standard. I mean, in some occasions when I go to France, when I go to UK, and sometimes with the Brexit it's not the same, but when you find different requirements from your national standard and you have to fulfill it. This is a kind of barrier for you in order to go outside. But on the contrary, you have a national standard in your country, it's also a barrier for your competitors. So if you are participating not only in the European committees, but also in the national standard, you are protecting you about competition, or you are protecting about future requirements that are coming that are going to affect you. So this is good to be from the beginning. A standard takes minimum 3 years. If you are participating from the beginning, at the first month, you are providing information to your company. In 3 years, we must fulfill these requirements. Let's start from the beginning to design the product that is going to be, or to prepare the company for these future requirements. These are preventive actions to be a leader. If you expect the publishing of the standard, finally you are a follower and you have to react and you have to be a follower of your competitors that are participating in the standardization process. So in general, I think to be participating in the standardization process is an investment for your future and your growth, is not an expense. Okay.
Thank you so much, Isaac. This is a really, really interesting perspective. And Maitana, we discussed also this morning that in a way it can be seen that the setting standards for the single market, that in a way we're at the beginning of the process, especially of SMEs being at the table. There's still a lot of space for SMEs joining and learning how to be part of setting standards and applying standards. And I know in your work, you're exploring the vantage point of what are the obstacles that are stopping SMEs, that are the hurdles, that don't allow them to participate as much as they would want to, as Javier, you were speaking to as well. I wonder what is it that you have discovered?
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for the invitation, the opportunity to really talk about standards that I think, as we heard, is really an important topic, and a topic that maybe, SMEs are not so aware of. But is, as it was mentioned, a strategic topic, and something that if you want to be, as you said, a leader in your market, you really need to be aware of standards. So I also prepared a few slides. I have to say it's very difficult to intervene after Javier and Isaac, because they said many of the things that I wanted to share with you. The first one was about the benefits, but I think we already heard quite a lot about the benefits. And what I wanted to explore a bit more in my presentation is if there are so many benefits, and I think, as you said, you have quite a lot of SMEs, but when we look at how many SMEs are in the market, I think we could do maybe a bit better. So why is it, or what are the obstacles that are there for SMEs to participate, and what can we do about that? So that's what I wanted to focus in my presentation. So what kind of obstacles we see, and also what we are doing from the side of small business standards to try to overcome them, and also maybe to have a discussion all together. What are the kind of issues you see, and how we can come, to overcome them. So first of all, I just wanted to share with you some thoughts that came from a questionnaire we did last year to SME associations. We are convinced in many cases SMEs, they can participate directly, but sometimes they are too small, and as Javier mentioned, many of them participate through their association. So we wanted to see, since, as Javier explained, in order to participate in CEN, CENELEC, or in ISO IC, you need to go through the national standards bodies. We wanted to see a bit more, what is the relation of the SME associations with the standards bodies. Of course, don't pretend to say that the questionnaire was, representative, but it gave us an idea of what's there. And we saw that the majority of SME associations have some kind of relation, even if it's only exchange of information with national standards bodies. But we also saw that there is also a part where basically, no, they don't have any kind of relation. And why is that? First of all, it's very hard to me to see from here, but if I remember well, one of the first reasons is that they don't know them. So still, some SMEs and SME associations don't know who their standard body is. They don't know UNE is a standard body in Spain, and that's a reality as well. Another issue was, of course, also the lack of resources to actually get involved, and we can talk more about it. And actually, I don't see the other one because it's far too far away. Yeah, lack of interest. Thank you for that. So there is also a lack of interest, and I would say also understanding of the strategic value as well that Isaac explained very well of getting involved in standardization. Why is that important? And we also saw that among those that had some relation, part of those did not participate in technical committee drafting standards because they also didn't know how to do this. So what I want to highlight with that is that from my perspective, there are 4 main challenges that we need to tackle. First of all is awareness of the strategic value of standardization for SMEs, awareness of how to get involved as well. I have been working in standardization myself, but this is not something that you are taught, and sometimes you need to find your way and know how you can get involved. Resources is an issue. Most of the times you need to pay, not in all countries, but often you need to pay to be involved in a technical committee. You also need resources to travel, etc. But finances are not the only obstacle is also the human resources. When you are 10 people, you need to have someone that is sent to the standard committee that takes some time. So you need also human resources that are able to engage and to contribute. And also complexity. The system is not easy. You need to learn how to navigate it, and that's also a reality. And even if you overcome all these, I know sometimes SMEs also find the difficulties to find the right information. So exactly which technical committees I'm working on the standards for my product. What's going on now regarding, circular economy? Who is working on that? How do I, where? In ISO, in UNE, in CEN, where is the work going? So, very briefly, in our organization, Small Business Standards, what we are trying to do precisely to try to improve the participation of SMEs in standardization. We are an association of SME associations, and we try to, first of all, try to increase the awareness of the importance of standardization. I just put some examples in there. We are launching, for example, a campaign, Meeting Standards, with events to try to, raise the awareness of SMEs. We also provide support for SME involvement. We are actually funding experts that work at European and international committees. We are not a substitute, I would say, for the involvement at national level, but we want to complement that by supporting participation at European and international level. And we also try to get involved also in the policy, more policy of the standards body groups in order to try to ensure that the conditions for SME participation are there, and also try as much as we can to disseminate knowledge and update of standards with guides, etc. we do. Just to end, we heard this morning about Maive Rute. She mentioned about the European strategy for standardization. I don't know if you heard that, or you are familiar with it, but with this strategy there is also a high-level forum on European standardization that is basically gathering stakeholders, member states, industry, consumers, standards bodies, and in the framework of that high-level forum, SBS is leading together with CEN and CENELEC a specific work where we are precisely trying to look at inclusiveness at national level for SMEs and other stakeholders to try to identify best practices. There are best practices there, how standards bodies, are engaging with SMEs. I know, for example, in Germany, indeed, they did a database to facilitate the information for SMEs, how to find what's going on in standardization. So there are a lot of best practices, and it's important we share that, and all together we come up with recommendations on how we can improve the engagement of SMEs, because this is important, I think, for SMEs and for our economy. And if you want to contribute, there are a series of questionnaires going on, one for member states, one for standards bodies, but there is one for stakeholders, also SMEs. There is the QR code. So we want to know what are the obstacles you find and see how we can all together try to overcome those.
Thank you so much. I can see that the dialogue is happening already. Thank you for doing that. But we want to turn to you, and we want to ask you right now. We want to ask you two questions, and if we could have the slide with the questions and the Slido for that. What, from your perspective, Maitane, as you're saying, there's a lot of this inquiry into the market and asking how can we act better? What can we do? So we have two questions. Ooh, we cannot read them. So these questions are, if you can read them, that's great. If not, generally what we're asking, what can be done to raise the awareness of standards and standardization with SMEs? And also, what incentives can be further developed to facilitate the participation of SMEs in setting standards, but also in standardization in their organizations. We're going to give you 10 minutes for conversing at your tables. If you have answers where you go, like, that's a good answer, please contribute them through Slido. And I'm going to encourage our guests actually to join the conversation at the small tables, if you so wish, for 10 minutes. And then we're going to hear back from you. that's my attempt to attract your attention, trying to be gentle, you know, like, but still getting the job done. I just want to make sure that we have somebody with the handheld mic here. Is there some? Wonderful, thank you so much. So we would like to, you know, like our wonderful guests are very, very curious, and this is what we discussed. What is it is that you have found on your tables? We managed to read the answers that were submitted to Slido. They were helpful, but we would like to hear what you discussed. And here's a request to, before you speak, to request the mic so that our remote audience can also hear us. So what is it? What are some ideas for raising awareness and for decreasing the hurdles for SMEs participating in standardization and implementing standards in their enterprises? Who would like to share with us? There's a person over there. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you for this nice panel. And first of all, I'm Elina Egle. I'm leading Business Union of Latvia, SMEs organization, and I was basically encouraging the conversation, not as much how we encourage SMEs to participate, but mainly to develop the ecosystem where we are basically using these standards. And for that, I think that we really need the recognition of the standards on a EU level and demanding companies to follow these standards when they are participating in public procurements, especially in a situation which is not a peaceful time. We are in war. And some countries are facing war on their borders, some countries are facing disinformation war, some countries are facing cyber attacks, terroristic attacks, etc. So, and we have to think about European market, and standards is one of the tools how we encourage those companies who want to be in European market to follow certain rules. And here is a necessity of standards. If we are still going for the cheapest in public procurements and we are not asking for standards, I think it's no motivation for companies to be involved. And it's honestly saying also there's not so big argumentation for ministries of economy to support this process and invest in those standardization agencies at the national level as well. So yeah, so I would just say that we have been more focusing about recognition and demand side of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have space for maybe one or two more voices over here, please, and then over there. Thank you so much. And sorry for the distance that you have to make. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. We were just discussing as well how it can be different, the standards, whether you live in a region A, region B. Mm-hmm. So if you live 5 minutes separately, your EPC might be completely different. So if you're an SME trying to comply with the legislation, and then all of a sudden you're trying to fit in the box, but then the box moves. And it seems impossible. I think if we have a unified European platform where unified European standards, this would already encourage people because they know the box is going to be there by the time that you reach it. So that might be a motivational way to get people to participate and at an EU level. So you know, if I'm compliant in my national country, I'm compliant everywhere.
Thank you so much. And there has been also a comment via Slido to provide guidance and information around this, how standards like regional, national, EU, US, and others compare to one another. And so that also taps to what you're saying.
Thank you. Good morning. There's one issue that came up in our group discussion, but we didn't have enough time to really develop it. So I just want to throw it out there as one thing to think in parallel to the standardization that you're thinking about here, which is the standardization of the information to be provided by companies in Europe, including SMEs. So that's the corporate rules that are applied to companies for sustainability. So this is not really about the processes of production, services, the standards that generally you are dealing with here in this workshop. But it's very, very important for SMEs because Europe is going through a whole revolution of the information that will be expected of companies. And it will apply to all large companies, all listed SMEs, and although by law it won't really apply to unlisted SMEs, in one way or another they will be caught up in the system because they're in supply chains or in their interactions, even if they're not in supply chains, in their interactions with the financiers. And that will have a knock-on effect in terms of the financing that they can access for either sustainability investments or digitalization investments or both. So in that context, there is a big discussion on the voluntary standards for SMEs, unlisted SMEs, in the context of European sustainability reporting standards. And it's going to be ongoing. There will be a consultation in January. So just wanted to personally, and also a little bit on behalf of the table, bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Miriam, I'm giving you a heads up that in just 1 minute, I'm going to ask you to present us your graphic recording. And I would like to, I realize there are more voices that we can accommodate. I would like to check if there's any burning question that anybody of you is holding to our conversation partners here on stage that you would like to share, because it is a question that is about many more than just yourself and your situation, and that it would be worthwhile to explore here. Over here and over there, sir. Yeah.
Hello. I have a question around the touch point when you discuss standardization with SMEs. I think that there's benefits for SMEs, but we really shouldn't see them as the problem. We have standards to create economic value. That economic value is still coming from SMEs. So in that sense, standardization might be the hindrance, which we don't want it to be. What are the touch points that we can create with SMEs where standardization becomes from a hindrance to an enabling point? To me, for example, that would be the point in which an SME is big enough to grow international, to really start seeing those different markets. That's what I wrote down, like the moment that they start thinking about the EU, start thinking about the US. That might also be the point that they start interacting with Horizon. And in Horizon, we are already employing so many people to understand these businesses. So can we, for example, take away standardization from the founder that's already so busy? And can we put it in enabling parties like Horizon, like other touch points that are currently...
Thank you so much. Let's take the other question as well, and then you can decide amongst yourselves who of you would like to tackle them.
Thank you. David Caro, European Small Business Alliance. A while ago, I used to sit on the SME working group of the Senelec standards. And I found that, well, I was part of helping to write a section of the rules that need to be passed to all of the technical groups working on standards, making sure those standards are written with small businesses in mind. And I think that's vital. And I don't think that was being done even at the time, and I don't know how much it's done now, but it's important that many of the standards are written with small businesses in mind. I also have a problem. I have my own business, by the way, so in manufacturing, so I'm aware of how standards work. And one of the things that does concern me with standards is not when they're written in the first place, because they tend to be excellent bodies of work. It's when the rewrites come. And you almost feel at sometimes that the rewrites are for the sake of rewriting. Now, in the basic standard that most small businesses have, ISO, I forget the number of it now, 9790, something like that, the quality standard, that is written rewritten, major rewrite every 5 years. Why does it have to be every 5 years? You don't know, when I say you, I mean people don't know that there has been such a change that it must be written every 5 years. And when that happens, you get the feeling that it's being rewritten for the sake of being rewritten. And in many instances now, you look at that standard and you feel it is telling you how to run your business rather than being an able assistant to that business. And I think it's vital, absolutely vital that on the rewrites, standards don't overstep the mark. And the third point is cost. Cost of buying a standard for a small business varies hugely across the EU. It can be from a ridiculously high level to almost free at some levels. And I think that needs to be looked at, because if you can't afford to buy the standard and you're pinching bits here and there, you're not going to have a good standard to work to.
Thank you so much.
I can take two of them and maybe a comment on this one. I like very much your point on public procurement. I think this is clearly one of the key elements also to show return on the investment that your organizations are doing when developing standards. Public procurement, and it's recognized in the European I don't know if it's a regulation or a directive on public procurement, the reference to these technical standards to ensure quality, innovation, green public procurement. So we are emphasizing that very much at national level in Spain. But together with public procurement, I also want to make a reference to market surveillance, which is also the end of the chain. First, demanding to comply with the standard, but then verifying compliance with the standard and controlling what is in the market and that what is in the market complies. So there we're also doing big efforts there. I also liked very much the comment on the sustainability reporting. For sustainability reporting, we are very much aware this is, it's complex for big companies, it's science fiction for small ones. What we are trying to do is putting together, is mapping our, say, those standards that most companies have already implemented, or many companies have already implemented, ISO 9000, ISO 14000, ISO 50000 for energy management systems, and those more specific to your products, energy efficiency in construction. So those standards that you are already applying, to map them with what is the regulatory framework that you will have to that you will be obliged to comply, even if it's indirectly because you are in the supply chain, the EFRAG standards, the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. So we are working on that, having in mind that we need to make easier for SMEs that are in the value chain, the implementation for that, and for that helping the big companies that will ask their procurement chain to comply with that somehow. So we are working on that. To the point on the revision of the standards, I agree. I mean, every 5 years what we do is a question to the stakeholders. Is the standard okay? So it can continue as it is. Is the standard old to be withdrawn, or does the standard need some amendments? And the community responds. I would like to say personally, I don't think there is no sales of a standards business purpose behind for that. Absolutely. ISO 9000, the current version is from 2015. So, and still there is demands here and there. Yeah, it should be revised, no, it should not. But it's true, it's complex. Sometimes for some, the development time, 3 years, is very long. For some, it's too short, because we don't want to change our market investments in electric energy distribution. This business does not want to change their infrastructure every 3 years, no? So it's complex, but we try to listen.
I'm awfully sorry, but listening also to my other colleagues, I'm realizing we're completely out of time.
No, I'm finished.
And I would like to, Miri, would you just share with us what are the highlights of what you captured?
You have been gone through the why it's need the standardization. We have seen a lot of whys and a lot of benefits from that. You see the waves that it's increasing and making us SMEs strong and powerful. We are going to gain in transparency, being leaders, learn from experts, providing vision, being competitive. And in the very beginning, they were saying that we are going to generate trust. We have seen also challenges that they are like, putting a kind of questions on there. So, but we have seen how we can write and apply standards. We know it takes 3 years to do that. And finally, we have been sharing what do we need. So you were sharing that, awareness, we need support, we need shared experiences from best practices, we need recognition, we need clarity. Just to say that the standards, and it was in the very beginning, are key tools to make SMEs' lives easier.
Thank you so much. Strong encouragement to all of you to join us at the Ideas Lounge, where we're actually trying to understand with the community that gathers here, what is the recommendation for the new Commission, what is the recommendation from the SMEs and those who support SMEs. So join us and help us to understand, map it, and codify it as best as possible, so it's actually helpful and practical, so it doesn't stay on this, like generic level of make access to finance easier, because that's not helping anybody in work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maitana. Thank you, Javier. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day and enjoy your coffee break.
Thank you.
Okay.